was a lot of stuff, I knew, but I don't think that they don't really know the inside of what was going on and what was really happening.
Look, Puffy might be the destination for anybody going nowhere.
He's not wrong. Y'all
Nobody survived.
Man, Craig Mack went to his grave mad at Bad Boy.
I had a gun in my lap. If it comes to getting ugly where somebody's gonna be trying to kill me, I'm gonna have to do something first or do something to prevent that from happening.
Craig Mack was once a rising star in the 90s hip-hop scene, known for his breakout hit, Flava In Ya Ear. However, his life took a tragic turn after his time with Bad Boy Records. While the official cause of his 2018 death was reported as heart failure, recent revelations suggest a far more disturbing reality. New evidence indicates that Mack may have died from complications related to AIDS, raising questions about whether he was suffering in silence. Even more unsettling are allegations pointing to Diddy's possible involvement in Mack's illness. Was Diddy somehow responsible, or did the pressures of the industry contribute to Mack's untimely demise?
Man, Craig Mack went to his grave mad at Bad Boy.
How did a rapper who once had the world at his feet end up in such a tragic state? And why did so many people close to him seem to disappear when he needed them the most?
You stood next to Biggie, you put hot on him. That's stand next to the fight if you want, right? You stood next to Mace, you stood next to Jock. Look, Puffy might be the destination for anybody going nowhere.
He's not wrong. Y'all
Nobody survived.
From the mysterious circumstances surrounding Craig Mack's last days to the shocking claims made by those who knew him best, this story is about to get deep. So what really happened, and why is everyone so afraid to talk about it? Let's break it all down. Craig Mack's death in 2018 was initially reported as being due to congestive heart failure, but recent revelations paint a far more troubling picture. A closer examination of Mack's personal health records has now revealed that the real cause of his death was complications related to HIV/AIDS. This shocking information, confirmed by Mack's death certificate and reported by Rolling Stone, sheds new light on the tragic circumstances surrounding the death of the Bad Boy rapper. Gene Deal, a former bodyguard for Bad Boy Records, has stated that Mack's condition was a well-kept secret within the industry, raising serious questions about the individuals who were supposed to be looking out for him. The secrecy surrounding Mack's illness points to a larger issue within the music industry, where the health and well-being of artists are often overshadowed by the pursuit of profit. More disturbing still are allegations suggesting that Diddy, the founder of Bad Boy Records, may have played a role in Mack's demise. These claims imply that Diddy not only knew about Mack's illness, but might have been involved in the circumstances leading to his infection. Was Craig Mack a victim of foul play due to something he knew, or was he merely another casualty in an industry notorious for exploiting its stars?
He was the catalyst that made Bad Boy and Big what they was. Now,
the more you dig into this story, the more questions arise. Why did Craig Mack suddenly leave the music industry at the height of his career? And why did he distance himself from everyone he knew, including his own family? These are the questions we'll be exploring as we delve deeper into the tragic life and death of Craig Mack. But before we get into the details, let's talk about the impact of his departure from Bad Boy Records. Once upon a time, it looked like Craig Mack was about to become a huge deal in the rap scene. His first album was a hit, winning awards left and right and selling tons of copies. But the good times didn't last long. Craig disappeared from the music scene almost as quickly as he burst onto it, and there was a lot of drama along the way. In fact, things got so intense that he talked about wanting to unalive Diddy. So, what pushed him to consider something so extreme?
Craig wanted his money for his music. So, Puff said, yo, I ain't fucking with that kid no more.
Craig Mack saw the highs and lows of the music industry in just a matter of a few years. He became huge and invincible, and then was completely forgotten. But how did it all happen? And so quickly? Turns out there was one man responsible for it all, none other than the infamous music producer Diddy. Diddy made Craig's career and then broke it too, and for that, Craig was willing to unalive him.
I was thinking about trying to do this to somebody because it was really in my heart. You know what I'm saying?
Diddy kept doing Craig dirty over and over again. Whether it was messing with his rap career or straight up taking his cash, Diddy was always pushing Craig's buttons. There was this one time when Diddy got Craig to lay down some tracks in the studio and then straight up stiffed him on the payment.
that wanted to do another album with me. So I said, cool, I gave him my price, and the price was, to me, was...
Even though Craig had quoted a fair price for his work and they'd already agreed on the payment, Diddy pulled a fast one on him. Instead of coughing up the full amount they'd settled on, Diddy tried to palm off just a third of what he actually owed Craig.
We go. You know what I'm saying? I'll take a third again. I'll take a third again when we finish the actual recording of the album.
But Craig, being kind-hearted and perhaps a bit too trusting, went along with the deal. But if there's anyone you shouldn't trust in the music biz, it's Diddy. That guy will take every cent he can get his hands on. Eventually, Craig caught on to what was going down and put his foot down, refusing to work for Diddy any longer.
Nothing happened. No money. So I stopped recording. I said, I'm not gonna be an idiot and sit here and do all this stuff for everybody, and I'm not gonna see anything from it.
But Diddy, he's like this entitled bully who acts like people owe him something even when he's not paying up. So he just went ahead and tried to strong-arm Craig. Diddy's got this whole dangerous vibe going on, always talking about gangs and thugs and acting like he's some kind of mafia boss. So it wasn't really surprising when Craig spilled the beans about Diddy trying to pressure him into working for free.
Oh, you owe us an album. And I'm like, excuse me, my friends, but I don't owe you shit. You owe me money. You know what I'm saying? So if you can come up with the rest of this dough, then we can come up with the rest of the album.
Diddy kept harassing Craig for such a long time that even someone as laid back and peaceful as Craig was pushed to the edge. He was so upset and devastated by the nonstop threats that he reached for his gun and actually thought about doing something drastic.
I had a gun in my lap. And I'm sitting there and I'm talking to God. I'm like, Lord, I don't want to do this.
Craig had planned to unalive Diddy if he continued to threaten him. After all, it had come down to survival for Craig. If he didn't stand up for himself, Diddy was going to ruin his life forever.
But if it comes to getting ugly where somebody's going to be trying to kill me, I'm going to have to do something first or do something to prevent that from happening.
But what happened next will shock you just as much as it shocked Craig Mack. Craig was sitting there thinking of unaliving, but God had other plans for him. In a miraculous moment, Craig heard gospel music on the radio that completely changed his heart in a moment.
When I turned the station, all this gospel music came on. I knew that it was God talking to me.
In a split second, all the negative thoughts left Craig's mind, and he knew God would never want him to commit such a sin. Craig broke down into tears and repented the horrible thoughts. It looks like God gave Diddy another chance to make amends in his life. This incident had such a huge impact on Craig that he completely gave up on Hollywood life. He disappeared completely for 6 years and then later reappeared as part of a cult. Looks like he really did see God that fateful night when he had planned to unalive Diddy.
I gave away my cars, turned in all my guns because the Max gave the beef like hamburger buns. I sold my home, I moved my family.
Even though Craig never came back to the music industry, his career, however short, will always be remembered. He helped take off Diddy and his huge bad boy empire, but their rivalry lasted longer than their friendship did. For context, at the beginning of his career, Craig went by the name MC Easy and formed a rap group called MC Easy and Troop. By the early 1990s, Craig Mack was already showing promise in the music industry. He started off as a roadie for the Long Island rap duo EPMD, which gave him his first taste of the hip-hop world. During his time with EPMD, Mack crossed paths with a young and ambitious Sean Diddy Combs, who was working as an A&R, artist and repertoire executive for Uptown MCA Records. Diddy saw potential in Mack and gave him his first big break by featuring him on a remix of Mary J. Blige's track, You Don't Have to Worry, in 1992. This exposure was Mack's first step into the limelight.
Don't try to blame me for that same. Last nigga didn't go to beat until his mom.
That same year, Diddy, ever the entrepreneur, decided to strike out on his own and founded Bad Boy Records. Craig Mack was one of his first signings, and together they released Flava In Ya Ear. The track became an instant hit, putting both Mack and Bad Boy Records on the map. However, it was the remix of Flava In Ya Ear that truly catapulted Mack to stardom. This version featured heavy hitters like LL Cool J, Busta Rhymes, Rampage, and the Notorious Big. The remix was everywhere, and Craig Mack was suddenly a household name. Around the same time, Diddy signed the Notorious Big, another talented rapper who would go on to become one of the most iconic figures in hip-hop. From the outside, it seemed like Mack and Biggie were getting along well. often seen together in public and in photos. However, behind the scenes, things were not as friendly as they appeared. In reality, Biggie didn't like Mac, and this tension only grew over time, especially after Mac eventually parted ways with Bad Boy Records. One of the sources of this tension was jealousy. Despite Biggie's immense talent and the release of his groundbreaking album, Ready to Die, Craig Mack was still the more popular artist at Bad Boy Records. When Mac released his debut album, Project Funk Da World, just a week after Ready to Die, the competition between the two became clear. Mac's album debuted at number 6 on the charts, while Biggie's only managed to reach number 15. This was a bitter pill for Biggie to swallow, and it only fueled the animosity between the two. However, things began to shift after the success of the Flava In Ya Ear remix. This track not only elevated Mac, but also helped to promote Biggie. As Ready to Die gained traction and eventually became a hip-hop classic, Mac started to fade into the background. The dynamics within Bad Boy Records began to change, and misunderstandings started to arise between Mac and Diddy. In 1995, Craig Mack won the award for Best Rap Single at the Source Awards, marking the peak of his career. Unfortunately, this also marked the beginning of the end for his time at Bad Boy. Tensions between Mac and Diddy escalated, particularly after Mac changed his manager. Diddy wasn't happy with the change and reportedly gave Mac an ultimatum: either fire your manager or you can't work with Bad Boy anymore. Around this time, Suge Knight, the infamous founder of Death Row Records, was planning to expand his empire to the East Coast. He intended to launch Death Row East, with Craig Mack as the label's first major signing. Mack was even set to perform at Suge Knight's 662 Club in Las Vegas. However, the escalating beef between the East and West Coast rap scenes, coupled with the tragic murder of Tupac Shakur, derailed these plans. As a result, Mac's second album was released by Street Life Records in 1997, but it didn't receive the same attention or acclaim as his debut. Despite his falling out with Diddy and the tension with Biggie, Mac participated in Biggie's posthumous album, Born Again, where he referred to Biggie as a friend. After this, Mac disappeared from the public eye for a while. In 2001, Craig Mack resurfaced in the music video for the remix of Special Delivery by G-Dep alongside Puffy, Ghostface Killah, and Keith Murray. At this time, Bad Boy Records was undergoing significant changes, with artists like Mace and Shine leaving the label under controversial circumstances. The following year, Mac made another cameo appearance in Diddy's I Need a Girl Part 1 music video. When asked about working with Diddy again, Mac seemed optimistic, saying, "I'm just glad that I'm with my family. What happened in 94 and 95 happened in 94 and 95, and it must have happened for a reason. So to see everything come back together now, it's just a good thing and a blessing." In that same interview, Mac hinted that he was close to finalizing a new recording contract with Diddy. However, this deal never came to fruition. Mac later revealed that he felt deceived by Diddy to the point where he nearly contemplated taking his life. What ultimately stopped him was a profound religious experience. One day, as Mac was driving, he landed on a radio station playing gospel music. The music moved him to tears, and he felt that God was speaking to him, guiding him away from thoughts of violence and towards a path of spiritual redemption. It was at this point that Craig Mack turned to religion for solace. He became deeply religious, abandoning his music career and disappearing from the public eye once again. He left his last album unfinished, choosing instead to focus on his newfound faith.
I knew that it was God talking to me. You know what I'm saying? Because of the way it made me feel emotionally. I broke down, started crying all over the place in the car.
He avoided the spotlight for at least 2 years. His supporters are grateful for the gesture because it gave the impression that he was giving up music to focus on his spiritual life. However, Craig seems to have joined a suspicious religious group. He had himself shackled to a depraved cult that was about to implode, led by a man who had been called a dog by one preacher and Satan in the flesh by one victim, Ralph Gordon Stair.
New tonight, a woman who said she was victimized at a Walterboro church wants her voice heard. Pastor Ralph Stair, charged and convicted of various sex crimes.
An examination reveals numerous accusations made against the head of Overcomer. The self-proclaimed prophet, 84-year-old Stair, was revealed to have committed SA through interviews with former members and a review of court documents spanning decades. He allegedly infected his victims with STDs and instructed one girl to induce a miscarriage when she feared she was pregnant with his child. And this doesn't even scratch the surface of Stair's transgressions, which supposedly included leading Craig around by the collar. It wasn't just Craig who got hurt either. Another Another victim has come forward with a similar account of how she became trapped in the cult and could not escape for 7 years.
Because I was sex trapped at 17. And then I jumped into the ministry because I wanted to give my life to God. And then I jumped into a cult unknowingly and couldn't leave for 7 years.
Craig, who was only 46 years old when he died of heart failure in 2018, was unlucky enough not to survive his time in the cult. Mac's debut record producer, Alvin Toney, who worked on Project Funk Da World, informed an outlet that he and the disgraced rapper recently met up at Mac's church to discuss filming a documentary on his choice to leave the spotlight to devote himself to his faith. Tony said, "Nobody got to understand his story. I wanted the world to know the talent he had. It was something I wanted people to enjoy, but it was cut short because he was very religious and wanted to go to church." Eric Sermon also tweeted about Craig releasing his 4th album right before his death. "I'm devastated over the news of Craig Mack. We just finishing up his new album. Rest in power, Craig." Easy Moby sent a heartfelt tribute to his friend Craig on his social media accounts. In the same message, he mentioned getting a call. "I'll tell you what's so disappointing about his passing away. About 3 months ago or so, I finally got a hold of him, and we talked for over an hour. Most of the call was me trying to persuade him to start making music again. He felt like after giving his life to God that maybe he shouldn't rap again." He further wrote that Craig had finally agreed, but he didn't call back afterward. "Maybe he knew he was about to die and didn't want to tell me. One of the reliable sources I spoke to not long ago tonight told me that he had told somebody, 'I'm not going to be here much longer,'" Moby added. Something extraordinary about Craig's service was also rumored by sources. In a since-deleted post, DJ Scratch lamented that he was the only notable person present. Scratch wrote, "I've never been to a service for someone famous, and I was the only famous person to show up. Very weird day today. But what put a smile on my face is that Lil Bro was at peace way before he passed away. That's what matters most to me." Well, in the 6 years after Craig's death, there has been no word about a documentary on his life and work. Meanwhile, according to Rolling Stone and Mac's death certificate, the cause of his death was related to HIV/AIDS, and he refused to seek treatment. The outlet noted that it was Mac's family who honored his wishes and repeated his assertion that he had congestive heart failure. His first wife, Roxanne Hill Johnson, and brother Andrew claimed that Mack learned of his diagnosis before using the church as a shield to ward off the shadows of his past. Andrew expressed, "I believe he was very much in denial, but that's him living his truth to the end. I know that sounds really crazy, but you have to know him to understand that. As much as that bothers me, I understand why he did what he did. He lived his truth." Mack began telling people he'd been diagnosed with congestive heart failure in late 2014. His health wavered, and there were multiple moments Mack believed he was going to die. The outlet reported that Mack knew he was gravely ill and began documenting his story with music producer Alvin Toney. Yet by March 2018, Mack was bedridden, and his family was unaware of the extent of the rapper's illness. Andrew said, "I've truly, honestly never seen a human being in that condition before. He was catatonic." The rapper wanted no medical intervention, and his family respected his wishes. According to Rolling Stone, Mack's family is still putting together the pieces of his life. Considering his confusing death led to a host of questions, including when he learned of his diagnosis and whether he would have sought treatment if he wasn't connected to the church. His daughter Amanda believes she'll never know what the truth is, especially when it comes to Mack choosing to join the Overcomer ministry. So much is a mystery, but she does forgive him and believes his intentions were good for trying to find the Lord, but it's just a bad situation. Roxanne, however, blames Diddy for being the catalyst to Mack's downfall. She called him a trigger, adding, "He effed my family up." During his time on Bad Boy, Craig Mack was working hard to try and get out of the label, his family says. He initially filed for bankruptcy to get out of his deal after his sophomore album, Operation Get Down. When that didn't work, Mack met with Suge Knight to consider signing with his Death Row Records. However, once Diddy found out, he forced Mack to drop his bankruptcy claim and buy out his Bad Boy contract in order to leave the label. Puff was pissed Mack was leaving Bad Boy and the fact that he was going to go with Suge, Roxanne said. From what I understand, Puff was enraged. Puffy became a vindictive bastard and really stuck it to him for doing that. Johnson claims Mack was afraid of Diddy and blames the hip-hop mogul for the rapper's career downfall. Craig Mack's death may have been shrouded in mystery, but his legacy as a pioneer of hip-hop is undeniable. Despite the challenges he faced, Mack managed to leave an indelible mark on the music world, inspiring countless artists who came after him. His story is one of triumph and tragedy, a cautionary tale about the price of fame and the dangers of getting too close to those who wield power in the industry. But as his fans reflect on Craig Mack's life and legacy, they must also ask themselves some tough questions. What really happened to him? And why was his story kept in the shadows for so long? The answers to these questions may never be fully known, but one thing is certain: Craig Mack deserved better. In the end, Craig Mack's story is a reminder that the truth always has a way of coming to light, no matter how deeply it's buried. And while his life may have been cut short, his music will live on forever. Craig Mack's life and death remain a mystery, but the impact he had on the world of hip-hop is undeniable. As more details emerge about the circumstances surrounding his death, one thing is clear: there are still many unanswered questions that need to be addressed. Whether or not Diddy played a role in Craig Mack's downfall is something that only time will tell. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.